I'm talking about the dimensionless or unextended point from which the dimensional or extended world emanates. Descartes defined mind as unextended and matter as extended. This doesn't imply substance dualism. Matter is extended mind. When materialists say that matter has volume, they're saying the same thing in different words, without understanding what they're saying. Since I've explained that volume is merely extension of a dimensionless or unextended point into one, then two, then three dimensions. The material universe, then, is the extension of mind. Materialists will never succeed in explaining mind in materialistic terms. Instead, matter can only be explained in immaterialistic terms. Reductionistic, materialistic, deterministic scientists will never and could never in principle explain the emergence of mind and consciousness and free will from a dead, unconscious material universe. The material universe can only be explained as emerging from mind. This is a logical and mathematical truth. But scientific-minded materialists, who are still plugged into the matrix, and who rely on their senses rather than on reason as the basis for knowledge, will be blind to this fact and remain in ignorance. The new atheists claim to promote reason. They are the enemies of reason. They deny reason and appeal to the senses, which can never tell them anything whatsoever about truth. No scientific experiment conducted by scientists inside the matrix can reveal anything whatsoever about reality, or even reveal to them what the matrix itself is. They can only observe and draw inductive conclusions about the regularities and patterns that exist within the matrix. They will gather some indirect and probabilistic knowledge about the rules that govern the computer program, and that may prove very useful and have practical applications inside the matrix, so I'm not saying it's a waste of time. But to think that it can answer the big questions and lead us to knowledge of truth is delusional. But the matrix, the program itself, is a mathematical code. This is why physicists are forced to use mathematical equations to describe the material universe. The immaterial is eternal. Even materialists say, unthinkingly sometimes, that the laws of math are eternal. Are the laws of math material? Photons have no volume. They define matter as having volume. So are photons? Is light material? Mind, consciousness, is unextended. Like light and mathematics, mind belongs to the eternal realm. The ancient Gnostics and other esoteric schools describe the ultimate reality beyond the material world of sensory illusion as an eternal realm of light and as the true home of the soul. Materialists deny this eternal realm of light because it isn't material. It isn't extended. It's dimensionless. So they deny the soul. They deny consciousness. They deny free will. They deny the dimensionless light of reason. They reject reason and trust in their senses. Then, having rejected reason themselves, they accuse the religious of having rejected reason. And it's true that the religious have rejected reason too. The religious type is ruled by feeling, sentimentalism. The scientific type is ruled by sensing, sensualism. The philosopher is ruled by reason. The reason why materialists are determinists who deny free will is because their will is directed by their senses. Free will requires that the will be directed by reason. Imagine a man riding a horse. The man is the reasoning faculty in man. The bridle and reins represent the will. The horse is the passions and desires which arise from the senses. To borrow from Christian language, the carnal man, the materialist, is ruled by the flesh. In his unenlightened state, he is spiritually dead in sin. His actions are causally determined by the desires of the flesh, which arise from his senses. He is a slave to the powers that govern the material realm. The enlightened man is free. Free will is the man, reason, taking control of the reins, the will, and leading the horse, instead of being led by the horse. The determinist is a man who sits on the horse but doesn't hold the reins. He observes that he is powerless to direct the horse, and so concludes that he has no free will. He has an external locus of control. He assumes that no other rider is able to steal his horse either, and denies that anyone has free will. He thinks anyone who has an internal locus of control is deluded. Because he himself is a slave, he denies that other men are free. Rather than escape from prison himself, he wills that all men be imprisoned. Anyone still plugged into the matrix is potentially an agent, as Morpheus tells us, and this has implications in the social and political arenas. Determinist and materialist are statist usually. Feminists are deterministic. They deny female agency. Women are acted upon, in their view. Everything happens to women. Women themselves are powerless victims of the patriarchy. Liberals say that black people lack agency as well. They are not responsible for their own lives. They are the victims of some white racist conspiracy. No problem within the black community is ever caused by choices made by black people themselves. White people are to blame for everything. America is to blame for everything in the world. Non-Americans apparently are not free agents. Of course, these victim narratives aren't consistently deterministic. The evil white men have free will, and can therefore be blamed and held responsible for the conditions affecting women and blacks. America can be blamed for every other nation's problems. Let me make it clear that I'm in no way insulting women and blacks. I believe that women are free, just like men are. I believe that blacks are free agents, just like whites, Asians, and members of other races are. It's feminism that is insulting to women. It's the myth of black victimization and white racism that is insulting to blacks. I'm also not denying that women have been the victims of sexism. So have men, though. I'm not denying that blacks have been the victims of racism. So have whites and other races. The American government has done things, and is still doing things, that I don't support and even strongly oppose. And I can say the same thing of other nations. But to be free is to take responsibility. So as long as you deny yourself personal responsibility, stop complaining that you're not free. We should have a statue of responsibility next to the Statue of Liberty. She could scare off the immigrants who only come here to abuse our welfare programs. And I'm not saying that applies to all immigrants, obviously. It applies to a lot of citizens, too. Determinists deny that they have free will. But as I've shown, their determinism is never held consistently. When a determinist argues with someone who believes in free will, they always seem to place blame on the person who believes in free will. The determinist believes that the person who believes in free will is wrong, and the determinist seems to hold the person who believes in free will responsible for their belief in free will. And in trying to convince the person to accept determinism, the determinist is demonstrating an underlying belief that the person is free to do so. So determinism is always inconsistent. The determinist always denies their own responsibility while desiring to hold others responsible. They are never guilty. Someone else always is. They demand to be forgiven, yet refuse to forgive. The morally consistent attitude would be, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. The more generalized moral principle is expressed as the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is the moral application of a mathematical principle.